good evening. Hello there. Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome. Welcome to Reflections for career minded women, but the men are welcome as well. So come on in. Let's talk. Let's talk tonight. So, reflections is a part of my Fight to Smile brand. I even have on my t shirt tonight, Fight to Smile. And it represents the woman who has her head lifted high. She knows what she wants. She works hard. She's pursuing her dreams, pursuing her goals. And despite all the challenges and the heartaches, the setbacks, the disappointments, and the pain, she still holds her head up and she continues to smile. Fight to Smile. So, welcome to Reflections. So, come on in tonight. Is there a game on tonight? It must be. Oh, Lord, am I really competing against the NBA tonight? But come on in. I'm glad to be here. And I want to talk about blind spots. I really do. I want to talk about blind spots because it's just an important topic. It's an important topic because we all have them. We all have blind spots. So, what are blind spots? Blind spots ultimately are those truths that we don't want to accept about ourselves. They are those truths that we don't want to see. Blind spots are just things that we um, we sometimes are just not ready to handle. And generally, they're truths that we're not ready to handle, truths about ourselves, truth about other people. And we're simply not in a position at that moment to handle them. And they can be simple truths like, us give favoritism to some people, or we don't treat people the same. I've seen parents, have a special affinity for one child over another, just various things. I've seen people not being able to accept the truth about relationships, not be able to, it's a blind spot for them, and they're not able to accept the truth about infidelity, or just not able to deal with the truth. I know I've seen it in parenting. Some parents, have this real idea that their kids are perfect. Do you know people like that? Anybody know anybody like that? That they really think their kids are perfect, and they introduce, I've seen parents introduce, or say that, introduce themselves and they say, I have four perfect children. What? What? If they were perfect, they wouldn't be yours, because soon as they become yours, they're no longer perfect. So, because we're not perfect. So, but yeah, there are a lot of parents, who matter of fact, I saw a post, one of my friends that I met in school many years ago, Kevin, he said that teachers should have to wear cameras on their body cams, because parents need to see how their little angels really act when they're away from home. But but sometimes parents aren't able, that's a blind spot for them. They aren't able to accept truths about their own children. I remember my first time really seeing blind spots firsthand was many years ago. And I was in working at a bank, and it was like my first real job. I was home from Tuskegee, and it was my first real job. It wasn't my career field, but it was the first job that I got. It was just offered to me. I was like, okay, while I was waiting on my job. So this lady came in, and she just kept complaining about money was out of her account. And remember, this was a long time ago, and this was at the height or the onset of the crack epidemic. So she just kept saying that, money was missing from her account, and that um, we at the bank were stealing her money. We were stealing money out of her account. We were going to the ATM and taking money out of her account. And I mean, and she was belligerent and really serious about this. So finally, one of the managers said, well, we have the transaction here. Let's go look at the camera and see what's going on. Who's actually taking money out of your account? So she had to come back, later, and she brought, more family members with her because she was adamant that we were stealing the money out of her account. The family knew otherwise or thought otherwise. So they rolled back the film and they advanced it to the point of the transaction where, like a large sum of money, about $600. This was a long time ago. So $600 probably was equivalent to about 2,000 now. And $600 was deducted from her account and it was taken out by her son. And she literally fainted. She literally fainted because I know that that was just heartbreaking and it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating for her that my child, the one that I brought into this world, the one that I've taken care of, the one that can ask me for anything and I'm willing to make sacrifices for, was actually stealing from her. And it was a blind spot. It was a blind spot. He was addicted to drugs and at that time he was addicted to crack and he was struggling and he was, stealing money from his mother. So again, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight with blind spots. And I'm sure you're like, whoa, that story to blind spots, it's a big, a big gap. And not really, because there are different types of blind spots. I have a friend, and we were talking one day, and I was telling him about, this and this happened. And he was like, well, you should. He offered a suggestion of an action that I should take. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And he was like, no, but you really should. You should think about da 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 da. And I'm, no, I'm not doing that. And he was like, oh, blind spot. So I was like, okay, I just let it go. Another time we were talking and he kind of hit a brick wall with me again. And he's like, oh, blind spot. And then that's when I had to really take note and I had to look at myself. And that's something that a lot of times we don't want to do. Which is a part of the blind spot. And the part of the blind spot is not willing to accept the truth about ourselves, the fallacies about ourselves. So that's kind of what I wanted to chat about tonight is these blind spots and thinking about just ways to reframe it and to think about it as not so much as a blind spot or a weakness of ours. Instead, looking at it as an opportunity for growth. Yeah, let's look at it as an opportunity for growth. So I hope someone's with me tonight. I see a couple people on YouTube. Let me see if anybody's out here on Facebook. Anybody here tonight? Anybody here? Kind of laid the foundation of where I'm trying to go. So we're talking about blind spots. Hey, Gary, that's my bestie in California, although I've been treating him like to the curb lately. Blind spot. I've just been crazy busy. But I know he forgives me. So again, I guess that's a blind spot. So, but nevertheless, sometimes we just have to, take a look at ourselves. If we keep running into the same situation over and over again, we keep having that same argument, that same discussion over and over again. It's time for us to look at us. Michael Jackson said it best. We got to look at the man in the mirror. the man, the won't man in the mirror and say, is it us? Because sometimes, yeah, sometimes it is us and we are wrong. Sometimes it is an opportunity for us to grow. This is true. And then there are times that it's just time for us to move on. Sometimes we are having the same argument with the people that are just not going to get it, with people that refuse to grow, with people who refuse to move out of a certain situation. And here we are trying to, going through the same argument, the same discussion with them. And for what? It's like you dunking on 6 foot rims. Okay. Yeah, I said it. Dunking on a 6 foot rim. I know I used the basketball metaphor. And for those who caught it, rims are, I think they're 8 feet. So a 6 foot rim means that your goals are too low. Your sights are too low. You're running around with a pack that isn't trying to get where you're trying to go. And yet you're still having the same discussions and arguments over and over and over with them. And for what? And for what? And for what? So, anybody here? Let me see. Anybody have any comments on Facebook? 10 foot. Okay, so it's 10 foot. So, okay, so if you dunk it on a 6 foot rim, then you extremely low. You are truly, truly in the wrong pack. In the wrong pack. It is time for you to level up. It's time for you to, sometimes you need to take that extra class, that extra training, so that you can move on. But staying there, arguing about the same things over and over again is a waste of time. Is a waste of time. All right, let's move on. So, blind spots. Our blind spots can come in different, in so many different ways. But I think when I was, kind of doing some reading and thinking about blind spots, a lot of it is emotional. A lot of it is emotional. Our blind spots are rooted in our emotions. And primarily, a main issue that, main thing that causes a blind spot is our, I won't say inability, but our unwillingness to address the emotions. So many times people will just stuff. They'll just stuff. They don't want to deal with that emotion. They don't want to deal with how they feel. So they just stuff. They just stuff. I've even seen it when people have lost a loved one. They don't want to take the time to grieve, which is a normal, healthy part of recovering from the loss of someone. And people just, when I feel bad, I go and have a drink, or I go and I change the subject, or I think about something else. But sometimes we really do need to take the time to just feel what we feel. And too often we try to intellectualize how we feel. We don't want to deal with the real emotion. And because of that, we stuff and then we blow up at the wrong time. So many people then blow up and freak out when they're sitting at a red light, or someone cuts them off, or someone takes their parking spot. And it really, really, do we really have to fight and roll around on the ground, um, drive 100 miles an hour just so that you can drive up to someone and flick them off? I mean, really? Does that really feel good, especially once you get pulled over and now you have a ridiculous speeding ticket? So, it's just a matter of, with the blind spots, that we really need to take that time and again see this as an opportunity for growth. Sometimes we do need to feel what we need to feel, address those issues, address those emotions, and so that we can move forward, a lot of times emotions will override values. People will be in relationships, but they're angry right now, so then they go and invite other people into the relationship, you know and I'm talking about marriage. You're maybe in a monogamous relationship, but you're angry, you're upset, you all caught up in your emotion. Now you let somebody else stroke your emotion, and or stroke your feelings, and now you're in a mess. Our emotions have us overeating. Our emotions have us just doing things that we know we that goes against even some of the values that we have. But we're caught up in our emotions. We're angry, we're mad. Those are blind spots. When we can't think straight because we're angry, that's a blind spot. That is a true blind spot. And and then if someone brings it to our attention, now we're angry at them. That's a blind spot. That is truly a blind spot. So we have to learn how to accept truths from people. We have to learn how to accept the truth, deal with it, deal with the emotion, so that again we can move forward. Sometimes we need to feel bad. Sometimes we do things and we say things that are disappointing. We let our own self down, and instead of dealing with that emotion, we'll just, oh, well, forget it, whatever. No, sometimes we do need to deal with that emotion so that we don't have to go back across that same bridge. I know, I thought, let me show you something. Well, I can't show you, but I'll tell you. I found a post-it note on my desk, and I was involved in a empty situation, and I wrote this. It said, "This emptiness that I feel, I pray I never forget it. This way, I will appreciate authenticity when it arrives." And that's, and I just happened to find I was clearing off my desk one day, and I found that post-it note, and I was like, man, this is so true, that sometimes we do need to rest in that pain, rest in that disappointment, so that we know we learn from it. We learn the warning signs, we learn the triggers, we learn more about ourselves so that we don't have to go down that same street again, you know? So anybody have any comments? Let me go back to Facebook because I had that note up. Hey, Miss Barbara, that's my baby. She looking all gorgeous these days and just doing all kind of things, great things. So hey, Miss Barbara, it's good to see you. But nevertheless, we have to learn how to deal with those emotions. Another a blind spot is projecting your feelings on somebody else. Just because that's the way you would feel, you think somebody else is supposed to feel that way. What? That's a blind spot. That's a blind spot. I know that I was on social media one day, and someone was just going off on a rant about how somebody should be reacting in a situation. And I had to ask him, I said, is that based on your Midwest perspective, 50-year-old male perspective? Are you projecting that on an urban 20-year-old female? you know, just because that is your perspective and that's your emotion, how you think you would manage that situation, does not mean that it is true for someone who's in, in a different background, who comes from a different environment. So a blind spot becomes when we refuse to see someone else's, or try to see someone else's um, their their perspective. When we refuse to see someone else's perspective, we judge the entire world by our educational level, our experience, and the things that we've been through. And that's how we judge everything in the world. And that's just so unfair. That's a blind spot. Blind spot. Blind spot. Anybody else know of any blind spots? Anybody? Hello, my friend. Love you, Miss Barbara. Anybody else can think of any blind spots? Anybody out there? You ever see people that when they wrong, they try to use bigger words and try to show that they're so much smarter than you? You ever see people like that? Blind spot. That is truly, truly a blind spot. Blind spot. Won't admit they're wrong. That's a blind spot. Hello? Not admitting you're wrong. That's a blind spot. That is definitely a blind spot. So, those are just some of the things I wanted to share. Now, let's talk about in the workplace. In the workplace, blind spots. Let's start with the very first one. How about, ready for this? Not willing to ask for help. And that can be not only in the workplace, but that could be just leading organizations. You think you're the only person that can do the job or do that particular activity. You're the only person who can get it right. Okay, that's a blind spot. And if you are the only person that can get it right, then why haven't you trained your team? Why haven't you provided the training or sent them the training so that they can do it right also? Hello. That part, but not asking for help. That's a blind spot. That is a blind spot. How about being insensitive? Being insensitive to the needs of others. Whew. I've seen that. I've seen that. And again, it comes from only seeing things from your perspective. I see that. Ooh, wee. I used to see this a lot with faculty. And I'm not using any names, I'm just saying faculty in general. And faculty would be like, well, I put myself through college back in the 1920s, and I didn't have anyone to help me and stuff. Man, what does that have to do with, like my mama would say, with the price of tea in China? Nothing, nothing. But seeing things only from our perspective, that's a blind spot. And it makes us insensitive, it makes us unrelatable, and ultimately not as effective as we could be. Any comments? Anybody with me? Anybody with me tonight? How about avoiding difficult conversations? I don't think anybody, well, there are probably some people out there, but I think for the most part, a lot of people would avoid having those difficult conversations. Maybe you have to talk to someone about their performance, or so I think, most people, they wish it would just go away, or it will work itself out, or we'll just have a gentle conversation. But you know what? Sometimes we just have to go in there and snatch that band-aid off. And that's usually like my approach. I don't like it, I don't shy from it. I don't run from it, but I don't like to have those difficult conversations. But when I'm in a situation and I have to have those conversations, I'm the snatch the band-aid off kind of girl. Let's go. Let's just get in and get it done. And but I always am looking, for an end result. I'm trying to move towards the end result. How can we move past this? How can we get past this? How can we grow? How can we learn and move past this? So that for me, that's the biggest thing, snatch that band-aid off, let's have those difficult conversations. But how many of you have ever had managers that refuse to have those conversations, or it's time for a tough conversation, they send an email instead? What? What? I'm talking about it's time for an executive level decision that deserves a phone call, but instead of a phone call, they send an email. What you say? Huh? Yes. Yes. Mm. Anybody ever experienced that? Barbara. Miss Barbara said blind spot, seeing a situation from your own lens and not from other perspectives. Absolutely, Miss Barbara. Absolutely. That is definitely a blind spot. And I was just sharing, about teachers, or faculty members who, talk about, oh, well, when I was in school, I had a baby and I didn't have all these problems and challenges that students have today. Are you kidding me? I've even heard people say that, well, there's always been teen pregnancy and drugs around. Yeah, that's true. But the difference between the teen pregnancy and drugs that happened back in the 70s and the 80s and 90s was that it wasn't on social media. Okay. And no sooner than the action is taken, then everyone that and everyone that and people that you don't know now have access to your failure, your slip up, your accident. Everyone knows. So no, it's not the same. So trying to see things only from your perspective is so unfair and is so out of touch of reality and unrelatable. They can't relate with you because you refuse to relate with them. So yes, I agree, Miss Barbara. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Um but yeah, those conversations, we I've seen it, people will not have those conversations whatsoever. And the whole team, I remember I was a part of a team one time, and there were a couple people that were unable to get along. And instead of administration stepping in, which there came a point when they should have stepped in. I don't believe that, you have to be all up in everybody's business. I don't believe that. But when when it takes over a meeting, oh, then it's time that administration need to deal with the situation. Okay. But refuse to. And it just ate away at the fiber of the team dynamic, the morale and everything. So, but that's a blind spot. That's the leader's blind spot, that you have to be willing to, make those tough calls and have those tough decisions. And any other comments? Any other thoughts about that in the workplace? What about administrators who accept low performance? I had an administrator one time that, he said, oh, well, I just won't renew their contract. He's like, I'm not addressing it. I mean, I know people who go after people, will just, with pen and paper and a calculator and a stopwatch and just go after people. For me, I don't have that kind of energy, unless, now if they're doing something that's hurting someone, that's different. but I don't have that kind of energy. And I'm not doing all that. And now I subscribe to my first administrator. I just won't renew your contract. And that'll be that. We'll have that last evaluation, tell you, my concerns. And I'm trying to think, because I think there was one time that out of that we created a plan of action. Um, hmm, blind spot. That could be my own blind spot. Hey, that's my own blind spot, because I had to kind of think that through. And that's still ultimately avoiding the person and avoiding the issue. So, blind spot, blind spot. So, we all have them. We all have them. So again, it's not about, seeing this as a personal weakness. Oh, you're weak, or, no, it's an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for growth. So I think I'm gonna be having that conversation. I'm gonna have to rip off the band-aid. Ugh. So, but the band-aid has to come off. So, very interesting. Very interesting. So thank you. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So, but that's my discussion for tonight. I wanted to talk about blind spots, blind spots in our personal relationships, as well as blind spots in the workplace. Sometimes it is us. Sometimes, well, all the times it's us. Sometimes it's us for an opportunity to grow, and sometimes it's us for an opportunity to move on. That instead of, staying and going around that same issue for the 18th time, sometimes it's just time to move on. So let's see. Ms. Barber says that I have quarterly meetings with my contact provider and document how they are performing. Very good. I like that. I like that. And I can do that with my team members, but then when I have my contract people who are only with me for 15 weeks at a time, um, it's it's a little different. But at the same time, um, it's still, for me, for this situation, it's something I need to address. So thank you. Thank you to my reflections family. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. That was a blind spot that I need to address, and I will. So that's the show for tonight. I appreciate you all coming tonight. Thank you so much. Now, next week, we are going to give tributes and honors to mothers. And I do have a couple questions. Do you think it's important when you have mothers and fathers who've never been married, they just they're raising a child, is it important to teach that child how to honor the parent, and for you to buy a gift or something for the parent in honor of Father's Day and Mother's Day? Do you think that's important? Just wondering. Just wondering. And do you think it's important to honor a father or mother who's never been there for you? Things to think about. So let's talk about it next week. Okay. You join me, please. I want you to bring something. I'm going to start giving out prizes for people who bring their cups. And you have to tell me what you're sipping on. So tonight, for me, it was sangria. So just putting that out there. Just putting that out there. So join me next Tuesday at 9 p.m. and we're going to talk about mothers, and we're going to give honor to the mothers who are with us, to the mothers who have, why is my mouse not working, and to the mothers who have gone on and are no longer with us. So with that, I bid you all a good night, and I will see you next week. Take care.